Good day, and welcome to another episode of Agent X11 Hollywood Dark Journalist. Another light in this darkened world. I am your host, Penny L.A. Shepherd, and I am Agent X11. My co-hosts are David Zublik, Heather Day, Joan Renee, Chris Montgomery, Skip Press, Tom Althouse, Jessica Garza, Edward Battalion, Dr. Keith Abloh, and TJ Ward.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
Agent X11 Hollywood Dark Journalist begins now. And welcome to another episode of Agent X11 Hollywood Dark Journalist. This segment is Brian Singh Presents. Our guest today unfortunately canceled at the last moment, but we are always ever prepared. And we are going to be talking about the battle for disclosure. We're also going to be talking about some remote views that Brian Singh was talking about as well. I opened our news segment with this. Steven Spielberg is coming out with a new movie, and it's about disclosure. It's due out 2026, I think either June or July. So we're going to open with a trailer of that.
If you found out we weren't alone, if someone showed you, proved it to you, would that frighten you?
Good morning, Kansas City. Let's take a look at today. Today is today's.
People have a right to know the truth. It belongs to 7 billion people.
What is it?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you. So I'm gonna show you.
What are you gonna do?
Full disclosure to the whole world. All at once.
People keep wondering. Encountering the unknown.
They're coming! They're coming!
They are starved for the truth.
Do you think there could be others?
Why would he make such a vast universe? Yet save it only for us?
And of course, it's Steven Spielberg. I report the did I say that anonymously? I report the news every day on Awake Nation. We do the Awake Nation news from 7 to 8 a.m. And then we do the Wake Nation from 8 to 10. I report news on every spectrum. Awake Nation is about disclosure. It's about disclosure for everything, as is Brian Singh's disclosure, full disclosure now movement. We're working together in that aspect because we all need to join together to disclose all of those hidden truths that have been obscured from us as Americans and as humans that are on this earth. It's now in the mainstream media, and I have a video. It's called Unexplained Encounters, and this was in the mainstream media.
Over the last several weeks, we've brought to you interviews with a UFO whistleblower, a director who spoke with dozens of officials about possible secret government programs. And tonight, Brett Baer takes a closer look at some of those claims and speaks with a UAP researcher about what they are calling a government cover-up.
Thanks, Aisha. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle and other government officials believe they should know more about unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs. Tonight we look at reports on some of the secret government programs that are being alleged.
This is so secret. There have been very few people in our entire government that have been allowed or provided access to it.
A new documentary featuring former and current officials from across the federal government is attempting to connect the dots on secret knowledge of UAPs.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
CIA officials, DIA officials, naval intelligence officials. The list goes on and on.
I served as the 4th Director of National Intelligence.
Director of Aviation Security in the National Security Council.
One-star admiral after 32 years of service.
Former Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet served as the Navy's chief oceanographer and meteorologist, and as acting administrator of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Why'd you take part in that? And of the voices in there, are you convinced that these are credible folks that are really coming forward for the first time?
All those folks are credible, Brett. They're all colleagues of mine. I've worked with them for years. This is going to change the arc of human history. The fact that we're not alone in the universe and that higher order non-human intelligences are visiting us and interacting with us, whose intent we really are unsure of still. That's just mind-blowing.
Not everyone is convinced by the film. The New York Times writes the claims are unprovable, and Variety calls it inconclusive. For us to be comfortable doing stories about it, we have to believe that these documents and these experts that we're talking to are telling us the right thing. How do you think the country, the world, will react when, if this happens, it's disclosed?
You have a slow process of information coming out of government, mostly from Congress,
Slow drip
from
for 100
intelligence community
years.
officials who've retired. And what we're seeing is that despite the amount of coverage on this, there isn't a lot of pickup on it in media, and people aren't really absorbing the significance of it.
Anthropologist Peter Skafish is co-founder and director of research at the Sol Foundation, a group that helps fund research into UAPs. Skafish interviews and conducts field work with witnesses.
I've had a lot of conversations with retired intelligence community people who have more or less verified this stuff to me directly.
How many people know this?
This has been an 8-decade cover-up. The total list has to amount to 100 or more.
Presidents have access to all classified information, but it's
That's
unlikely
scary.
the commander-in-chief reviews
And Biden
everything
was-
on any specific subject. Officials estimate there are billions of classified documents in existence, and as many as 50 million classified records are added every year.
Various presidents have been told, but many have not been
All right,
told.
Penny, can I jump in here?
Yeah, let's stop it.
So this is like more of the same garbage we've had forever, and part of it is we're so used to the garbage that we're unintentionally trapped and locked into it. All of what we just saw in this whole time It's all within a 3D matrix understanding of the world, where we're
Absolutely.
still at the level of questioning. Once you get to the 4D and 5D level, where you're like, no, our government has sold us out, and governments around the world has sold us out to the negative factions, and we're a hybrid race that's been nerfed by the Anunnaki, but we can really comprise 22 to 24 different starseed nations, including the Anunnaki nerfing. Okay. And, when you look at the first trailer that you played, Stephen King, Spielberg's Disclosure movie that's coming out, first of all, a lot of people in our community, they had some funny reactions to it. We have a lot of psychic media channelers there, and they don't start alien beatboxing because an ET's talking to them or whatever. Maybe that's not what's going on in the trailer, but they're like, that looked awkward and just weird. Okay. Spielberg himself, he has a long Illuminati history in Hollywood.
Yes, he does.
Connections to the murder of Heather O'Rourke, going back to the Poltergeist movies in his studios. She died during the making of movie 2, I believe it was, which but he was still on that. And there's a lot of history there. By framing things constantly within the 3D, we'll never get to the bottom of this, because we'll never, even within their framing, oh, we're talking about UAPs and we're going to fund research into UAPs. Well, what about direct ET encounters?
Right.
Abductions, channelings, where people are directly why do you always have to keep it to how scientific can we film with thermal scans craft in our skies, when there's this whole wide spectrum of the phenomenon, and they want to focus on this? It's like dealing with MUFON. And it's why when you go to these conferences these days, you'll see all these people, they're talking about Arcturians and the councils and the federations and the craft and time travel and super soldiers, and secret breakaway civilizations, and all the rest. And then you got the MUFON table over on the side, and they're people are yelling at them and back and forth, and they're always basically yelling that no one is scientific enough.
The problem you have in this entire subject matter is anybody that opens up with UAP, just shoo them away. The UAP is a narrative, a governmental narrative, smoke and mirrors, dog and pony show. And what you're seeing right now in Washington, D.C. is all BS. The only people that are valid to listen to are the pilots themselves. Everybody else is hearsay, conjecture, some of which are not, even people that are reporting are not mentally well enough to trust their testimony. They wouldn't be allowed in any court. What Brian is doing, bringing people that have been in the program, bringing in, I have people on my friends list. They are hybrids. I'm not telling you who they are. You go figure it out. There have been some proof on that. It's a totally different ball game. And Brian was right. Everybody's here at the 3D. Brian and a lot of us are 4D, 5D, and we're ascending higher. We don't need this crap. I did remote views. I always do it in August. And I'm telling you that last year I did my 2025 predictions for 2024 to 25. There has been numerous incidents around this planet where ETs, extraterrestrials, different varieties, have openly contacted on public airwaves, and people are dismissing it. And I believe they're going to do I believe they're going to even go a step further in 2026. You are going to see the same craft appear in multiple locations. I'm talking about China, Russia, US, and it's all going to be documented on film. There's going to be no way for them to shoo it away, because the ETs are the ones that are going to talk about disclosure. They don't need our government's approval. So I'm like Brian, like the MUFON people. I joined again just to get a newsletter, but what started out as 100% of people trying to figure this out went to maybe 1.5% that are really genuine and putting stuff in there, and then the rest of them are, I'm sorry, I just don't believe them. Get your heads out of this archaic sand, and no, seriously, and then start raising your vibration. Meditation. You have no idea if you just did hemi syncing from the Monroe Institute, the Gateway experience, you would have your own personal encounter with a large tall gray. They will be right there in front of your face, and you can ask them questions.
So, Brian, I'm going to get myself in trouble one more time.
Sure.
Because I do go to MUFON, but I say stuff on this show, and then I get a call like, what do you mean by that? Because I think the first time I did that was I said, well, we're not naive. We know that MUFON uses the database that the CIA uses the database to track what we're finding, so that was the first time I got a call. So, and they never get past the point, are they real? I mean, we've got experiencers that go there to try and figure out what's going on with them. We've got people that have been memory wiped. Their memories are coming back, and they're getting these similar visions of beings that are different. And it seems to be apparent that there's more than one variety. There's more than one intent. Some don't give a care about us. We're just fodder. Other ones actually do care. They've created us. And then there's those that hate, think we're just, this earth doesn't belong to us.
Yep.
So, you've got all of these little stories coming together, and it's kind of like the human race on this earth. We've got all these different varieties of humans, and every human everyone has a different idea of who we are, what we are, and how we feel about each other. And I do believe that permeates also this alien race, but we need to get past the point that they exist. They exist. Let's just get it over with,
I actually thought last night, because they said Trump was going to do a big disclosure, and I was like, oh, is he going to tell us aliens are real? This is a battle and he didn't, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I need to get some shut eye. This has been going on for too long. But we know that they are real. We know that there is a battle for disclosure, which we just talked about. We talked about the dissemination of information that is fallacious or that is already understood by people that have transcended, if you will, the 3D people that like Brian, like the two Brians. And Brian Bowden is also a remote viewer, as am I. I try to be, I try not to do it unless I'm scouting out a place. I saw a lot of things when I was in Branson, some pretty egregious, horrible things that I hoped were not our future, but I'm finding a lot of them are happening. And it began with me seeing Trump getting shot in the head, but being fine, and then seeing him in office a second time. And then I saw a civil war, and then I saw World War III. The time frame in that, I don't know, but we were joking off camera, not joking. And I was indeed thrown in a crazy house for a year. And I asked one of my handlers, who literally sex trafficked me out of the crazy house, so I could get a map, because I was trying to hand draw a map, and I couldn't remember all the states, okay, because I don't know everything. And I was trying to hand draw this map of the flood zone and what would happen after some kind of event, whether it be a comet or whatever, that causes flooding. And so I separated the states. I showed the flooding zone where it was. Then I separated the states into districts. Okay. Because if our government would fall and we would see the separation of the states. For instance, okay, there was a time traveler. I don't know the validity of this. He ended up in a town that I actually worked in at one point. And this is the way the story goes. So this guy's out jogging, and he sees what he thinks is a falling star. So he's going to go get some remnants of the falling star. There's a guy there standing where he saw the falling star. The guy comes out. He kind of smells like alcohol, and he says to him, "Hey, what are you eating?" And he says, "A granola bar." And he's like, "Where did you get that?" He says, 7-Eleven. He's like, "Can I have it?" And then he says, "What can you take me to?" He tells me he's a time traveler. It was Casper, Wyoming. He says, I'm a time traveler, and I was sent back from the future to warn you about some faction of aliens. And he said, can you take me to the president of Wyoming? And the guy says, do you mean the president of the United States? He says, no, the president of Wyoming. Well, eventually the guy gets taken in by the police because they're like, hey, this guy's a drunkard. However, there's one weird thing. The feds come and meet this guy. He eventually disappears, but the feds come and meet him because they want to know, hey, what happened in the future, right? I also had something similar to me happen, which I talked about on our show, in which I was locked in a room with one of the psychiatrists, and he wanted to know what I knew about the future and where they could find my contact, John. And I said, even if I knew, I would not tell you. And don't you think you should unlock that door? Because that's really weird that you're locking me in this room. Okay. So we discussed that. Brian Bowden, tell us a little bit about some of the things that you saw, because you do this remote view with a bunch of people.
Yeah,
what were some of the things you saw?
I did a prediction show last night on my channel, Third Eye Live, which is under my name, Brian Bowden, one word. And we were all hitting on the same thing. There are going to be some major disasters. Like I saw, it started off with me seeing some kind of asteroid hitting the North Atlantic, creating a tsunami that went from, north all the way south. Such force that it actually shot off pieces of ice from the ice shelf, which started to just go everywhere. I mean, it was interfering with shipping traffic. There was a huge iceberg off the coast of Hawaii at one point. New York City underwater, most of it. It also created, I saw earthquakes. I saw the Eiffel Tower wiggling, and that's not a normal area for major quakes, but they have had a few. So New Jersey quakes, New York quakes, a record-setting tornado going from the East Coast into the Midwest. I mean, like a real powerful storm. And then down south, turmoil everywhere. And I'm talking about, it's just cuts across about the Carolinas and goes all the way down. It goes into Texas, this thing.
That's my map.
If you're near Louisiana, you really gonna have a problem this year with water. East Coast shoreline gonna have a problem. And it's civil war, it's mayhem, it's everybody in the United States, we the people, and I'm talking about we the people, sick and tired of the lies. And like as they were promoting in this film, like, trust me, bro. No, I don't trust you, bro, and I'm not gonna trust you about, I heard Stephen Bassett say it, and Steve's a nice guy and he's an advocate for certain things, but he's like, I know that, you want certain proof, but trust me, bro, it's coming. I don't trust you. I don't trust anybody in the DC area. I don't just don't trust you. You've lied and cheated and fooled us. So
when I did that map, the handler who actually bought me the map from Walmart, because I was trying to create one myself, when I was done, he says, yeah, that looks about right. I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean that looks about right?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, that looks about right. And at that time, I was not a conspiracy person, guys. I was not a conspiracy person at all. I was trying to find out who I actually was, what projects that I was involved in. So I started researching. It's been since 2015, so it's 10 years now. Brian?
Can you allow me to share my screen? I want to put up the 1964 Navy flood map because other people have seen a very similar map and what you're sharing. And so I'm going to...
It's a famous map, but also Brian can talk about now. We can both talk. Yeah.
Can you see my screen yet?
All I see is us. There we go.
There we go.
Can you see it now on my screen?
Now we can see it.
Okay, so this is the U.S. Navy future flood map, and I think it's literally from like 1964, sometime in the 60s. People like Edgar Casey, the Sleeping Prophet, and others, like, I'm not sure if Dolores Cannon or others. I forget who might have seen this, but a Tibetan monk from like 100-something years ago.
Right.
But it's looks similar, except it's got this middle gash here, and it looks like the
Right.
water here a little bit differently from like your map pen.
Right,
Right,
there are
because mine
several
went on the
cruises.
coastline and Florida was underwater. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if they get underwater and it recedes. I don't know, but for a while there, I was warning everybody where to move. And then I had it separated into districts. But like I say, I was not a conspiratorial person. I actually hand did that map in the crazy house and said, all right, this is where the flood zone is. I'm not exactly certain if I did it precisely. And I show where it went up because the Mississippi goes backwards again. I researched
it
that
does.
whole thing about the Trail of Tears. I don't know. I had no idea what would cause that. This is part of my quest, Brian, as to why you and I met. All of both of you, Brian's, but because I wanted to find out what was going on with me because I was seeing these things. I was literally when I was in Chicago at the Green Mill, I was taken for a walk around the place at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and they played until 1:45, and it was eerily quiet. And then when I came back in, I said, "Hey, where's the ocean?" And they're like, "What are you talking about? You're in Illinois. We don't have an ocean here." And I said, "I don't understand what I just saw, but it was like the day after tomorrow, and I saw the entire city, like this place that we're in right now isn't here anymore." I
Right.
saw the whole place, and they were like, so somebody said, "Oh, well, Edgar Casey." I studied Edgar Casey when I was a kid, but I can have no recollection of actually seeing these things because when I was coming out of MK Ultra, I was like on fire and seeing things that were absolutely real. Like when I was in Wisconsin, I was at the Nice Ash. It was a hookah place. I was writing there, and I looked across the street and I saw the building catch on fire. But I knew that the building really wasn't on fire. I saw it in an old time thing. I saw it on fire. So I went across the street a couple of days later and I said to the lady, "Hey, was this place ever on fire?" And she's like, "Yes, it was." I said, "All right, well, I'd like to take pictures of the pictures." And then I said, "Oh, wow, I see it now. This place was a brothel and the women they were drugging people and they were working with the police officers." And she says, "Now you're scaring me." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She said, "Because this used to be a brothel and before that was a pharmacy."
Yeah.
So, I literally like started coming alive and seeing things. But I knew that they were visions. I knew I wasn't going crazy. I knew I was seeing things because I was getting verification from actual people as to the things that I was seeing. And I think that that's going to be our society. Brian?
Let me share my screen again. I pulled up that Edgar Casey flood map.
And then another thing with Brian and myself, we can talk about it.
That's what I'm seeing.
There's something called Project Looking Glass, and Project Looking Glass is the ability to see and forecast and future events taking place.
That one, Brian, the one that's the one that's second down, one up above that one. That one.
Wait, this one?
Yes.
Yep.
Who did that one?
This is probably a variation of an Edgar Casey map because I don't know if he ever really drew it out. Maybe just described it, and then this is people coming off these descriptions. And so it looks like it's based off of. Let's see.
The one on the side, the thing on the side though, it's not that full. It's thinner. It's a coastline thing because it involves California.
Right. See, but this is what it is when you're looking into the future and you're seeing the future, it also depends on your perspective. Are you getting a bird's eye view? Are you getting it from one side versus the other side?
Which timeline?
And that, yeah, and I was about to say that. Which timeline? Like, is it this timeline, this one, and yeah, or a combination. And here's the thing about the future. It's fluid and it can change in a heartbeat.
Yes.
So we may all be seeing this, but that's when you came out and go, where's the water in the ocean? Well, something may have changed.
They said there's a Navy pier here. I was trying to figure out in my head, how could a Great Lake cause a tsunami?
Right.
That's
And
what I
then
was trying to figure out because that's what I saw.
because I mean, if you really, it's really like an ocean. I mean, it's a massive body of water. They can have those events there too. But
I'm not that kind of
something
person.
that's
I don't.
very interesting that goes into the disclosure category is we have individuals that are being studied or for whatever their reason by a variety of different races of extraterrestrials. And when they're given information or when they're allowed to connect brain, body, mind, heart, and soul and connect to whatever the source is, where past, present, and future operate at the same level over a different millennium, sometimes they don't disconnect you before bringing you back. That's what I think you went through with MK Ultra. That's part of a hemi syncing
I also
program.
died a couple times too.
Well, that doesn't, that actually
helps.
helps you to, you've seen things and know things that they don't know. And the fact that you're still somehow connected to source and you're pulling information, they want to know your information because they can't do it. And that's why they're doing all these programs, trying to figure out how to get it done. And they're jealous of abilities that some people have. I was in the Hall of Records. I was in that building. It's massive. It looks like something out of Greek architecture. And the books are right there on the table. And if you walk over the book and you see it from a distance, it's perspective. It just looks like some old lambskin that we used to write on, that type of parchment. But as you get closer to it, everything starts to burn through. It's like fire. The closest simulation is, and I got dragged to this movie, Wicked, because my daughters wanted to go. And there's one scene where you see the spell book and it's nothing, but then the letters start to come in. It looks like fire, like they're burning through to get this. That's exactly what it looks like. And then images start to blossom. But I had someone tap me on the left shoulder, goes, "No, you can't be here right now. You have to go."
Yeah.
I had to go. So, you will get there in time. Brian is, Brian's saying, Silverby, with what he has put together, the people he has brought together that don't know each other but are saying the same damn things.
Yes.
This is true disclosure. We don't give a damn what the government says, but you bet your ass. How many people in the audience were government at your conference, Brian? I will guarantee at least a dozen.
Probably. I mean, we'd say we think some people probably checked into the hotel next door to monitor and zap us from another aerial kind of a sideways view, and then they probably send in a couple of people every now and then to walk the floor.
Oh,
but, yeah.
I did get Anna Polina Luna, and she came out with a statement that they're not even referring to them as extraterrestrials. They're calling them interdimensionals. And she said that was when she was in a skiff when they were divulging some of this information to her. So internally, apparently, they are recognizing interdimensionals, which is, that's new because they'll talk about extraterrestrials to us, but interdimensionals, that's new for the government, not new for you guys.
The CIA's been on to the interdimensional tip for a while.
Yeah.
The rest of the government, not so much, but definitely the CIA.
I'm gonna give you
Maybe they asked him about it because they didn't think John was a real person. Maybe they thought John was some interdimensional being because he had knowledge about the future. And this guy locked the door and asked me about it. He was legit a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
So something I've brought up back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when Fiona Broom, a paranormal investigator, coined the Mandela effect. That happened because the first large collider went online, and it was in Illinois.
Right. Yes, Fermilab.
Yep, Fermilab. And here's my theory about it. So my theory is the following. It's like giving a 2-year-old a 45 caliber hair trigger and saying, let's see what happens. They had no idea what they were doing. Matter of fact, the minute they turned it on and ramped it up, they shut it down immediately, like emergency. So I always do this. There's multiple timelines. We've talked about this. A, B, C, D, whatever you want. They created such an explosion that it blew up a couple of timelines. And then when it's over, they almost self-heal to get back to it. But we had one timeline that we grew up in where there was a cornucopia on the fruit of the loom and all this stuff. And it went back and at a certain point, that 1990, whatever, from onward now, we got their tail end, which didn't have a cornucopia. Now, in another timeline, they go, where the hell did this cornucopia come from? They're having their own Mandela effect. And but you know that when you do something stupid, like you break mom's vase or whatever, and you try to glue it back thinking you're slick, there's always a hole. And these cracks is where a lot of these interdimensional beings are coming through. You have the flying humanoids in Chicago. You have the black-eyed children all throughout the country. You have Shadow Man or Hat Man. Some of these other creatures come through interdimensional because they see, like, what's that hole in the crack? And they come through. If you correlate all the black-eyed children sightings around the country, they will be within a certain distance of every major university. That's because every major university has their own colliders, but on a small scale. They're opening up all these holes. Now, throw in, like Brian would say, CERN, and now you have a recipe for disaster. They know about these interdimensional beings, and they're trying to do something else. They're trying to take it a step further. Something not nice.
Here, let me share my screen and I'll pull up a Fermilab here.
First collider.
So it's in Illinois, as you were saying.
Yep.
Yes.
You can definitely see not one, but it looks like two.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're interlinked somehow, but two different collider circles, what it looks like. This is a booster ring. And notice it's got all this water around it. And it looks like circuitry just written on the earth. Or you see a lot of ancient sacred sites that kind of adopt, like the water and symmetry type elements.
So here's the thing. When I was homeless, I got a virtual address. The virtual address, I just looked it up, was 7 East Main Street in St. Charles, Illinois. That's 7.8 miles from Fermilab.
That's amazing.
Who I am. I had no idea what that place was.
And when you watch Stranger Things, everyone points out, like, it's originally supposed to be called the Montauk Project, but then when you watch the show, and people in our community say, well, they people are really automatically attaching it to Montauk, but really that sort of stuff happened over here or over there. And I believe Fermilab would be one of those places. The Toronto Deep Underground Military Base, which is supposed to be huge, is like,
It happened all over. It happened in Miami because there are many. Even Chris says, "Well, that's me. I'm 11 from Stranger Things." He is not. That story is intimately, unfortunately, connected to me. I say that, and $5.75 will get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks. I mean, I'm not doing it to sensationalize anything. I was freaking locked in a crazy house for a year trying to discern who I was, and that character there's about 1,000 threads that point to me. It's not about a man, it's about a girl.
You're the most where matches for 11, but then there's also a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
That is true. That is absolutely true. I don't refuse that at all. There's thousands like me, thousands. But for some reason, that particular character, I don't know. That's why I started talking to Tom Malthus.
You have the most threads. You have the most threads to that specific character.
Yes. How they wrote about my personal life. I was born August 11th, 1958. So way before the Duffers were born. And the Duffers are born in Durham, North Carolina. I believe that's where my mother actually volunteered for MK Ultra. She was very secretive about her life. And my father told me at one point, he said, I've done something so evil, even God wouldn't forgive me. I never found out what that was. So I'm still in question and investigation on that realm. But no, I do not deny there are thousands upon thousands. I had an argument with Grok the other day, which Grok interceded in a conversation I was having where I said, hey, I'm the actual 11 from Stranger Things. And Grok basically did a prove it. kind of thing. And I'm still pissed about it. I'll talk about it tomorrow on the news. But you know, why is Grok in my conversation gaining information?
Well, there's a lot going on here, and one of the reasons why, if you remember the movie Monsters Inc. So
Yes.
Monster comes in the room, scares the child, and that fills up the energy bottle. Okay.
Yes.
That is the truth. This is how it works. This is how interdimensional beings, a lot of them work. They need that. And they're the two extremes. It's whatever is produced by that fear, the adrenaline flowing, and think of what some of these sick people in the world are doing with the adrenaline of children. That's a different subject, but it's along the lines. But also, happiness is an energy source. So there's good interdimensionals and not so good interdimensionals. And then there's the ones in the middle that are opportunists for whatever reason. There are so many different connections here. Rock can go kiss your, you know what? You don't have to prove anything, in my opinion. AI, there is talk. Maybe Brian can also confirm on this as well. So there is talk that a lot of the reverse engineering that we've been doing with these extraterrestrials, interdimensionals, ultra terrestrials, AI is part of that.
Yes, it's using.
That is the
They're
ultimate
using
goal.
AI also to
Right.
communicate through it.
And yes.
Here's what I basically said. I was responding to somebody. I said, you know, I was involved in MK Ultra projects. Grok chimes in, not invited, and says that's fascinating. MK Ultra was a real CIA program from 1953 to 1973 involving unethical experiments on mind control. If you're open to sharing more about your experiences, I'd love to hear details. What specific projects were you part of? So
Yeah,
I'm like, what in
you
the
were tagged on
actual
that one.
Great Scott, what in the actual
So
then I said,
they're using their AI system to fish for
Yes.
secret space program grade intel
Yes.
for free.
Yep.
Yes.
And on top of that, when everybody says things in the UFO community, abduction and experience community, oh, it's the it's not the blood type. It's like RH. It's the RH factor. No, it has nothing to do with the RH factor, in my opinion.
That's one bloodline. The RH factors for one bloodline at a specific group of the Anunnaki cult type.
Yeah,
quality.
but it's also primarily you statistically started looking at who they're taking. They're taking universal blood donors because they're more so than anybody else. And then the ultra rare, because there's certain caveats of, like O's we can give to everybody, but we can only get from, exactly. And that's what they're taking. It's not the RH factor, but people are throwing these narratives in. Another thing that Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, a friend of mine, he said, and he goes, what he's worried about, and I am too, of the bandwagoners. I guarantee you, he says, by the time that movie's released, everybody's going to be talking about the clicking net.
That
and
actually
magically,
came from the
I
movie
caught clicking,
Signs.
and there's going to be clicking videos, and you're all full of shit. Pardon the expression.
Right.
You're bandwagoners and bullshit artists.
So here's what I said. I said, while
crazy.
much of the Hollywood story about Stranger Things is elaborated, the projects existed. Not just the projects the public has been availed of. You see, you will never be availed of thousands upon thousands of people involved in psychic programs and other types of programs for MK Ultra, which never ended and is still continuing controlling the MSN globally. That was part of my response. There are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. Brian Singh, you talk to them every day. We all talk to them every day in a community where there are thousands. It doesn't matter that I say that I'm the real 11 in Stranger Things. It really doesn't matter. In the grand scheme of things, it's a grain of sand on the beaches on this planet. It doesn't matter. What matters is there are thousands of us.
And because of all those different agendas and groups, let's kind of try to break them down into some categories here. Okay. There are those ETs where they've been part of exploiting us. These are generally the negative Anunnaki, negative Draco reptilians, some other reptilians, negative gray beings, and then like negative hybrid gray reptilian beings, known as the Mitron, among others. Okay, and they just want to keep this world enslaved as a prison play, on and on and on, so they can harvest our loosh, harvest us, our genetics, feed, all that stuff. Then they're on the opposite spectrum are more the angelics and interdimensionals, and they're coming through, and then we kind of just lump them all as like ETs, and they're not. They're more like angelics. And then you got demonics who are trying to imposter the angelics, and of course they've got their demonic things. And the demonic ones are sometimes in league with the negative ETs who are harvesting us. Some of these negative ETs might be in league spiritually, worshiping, sacrificing to the demons, just like some humans unfortunately do. And then there are other very advanced ETs. They're not angels, but they're so high in vibration, they're so old and wise and well-meaning that they are able to interact in, with the angelic realms, probably no problem. Does that mean angels and high-level ETs are the same? No. So I'm trying to get people to understand that you've got everything in the spectrum, God to Lucifer, the angelics to the demons, the high vibrating ETs down to the lowest, and then everything in between. And the ones who are the highest, they want to, with the least interference possible, but by sharing knowledge and wisdom and love, help us to help ourselves. And then you got...
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I was just saying, I think what you're saying is, because a lot of people like to say, okay, the extraterrestrial stuff is over here, but the biblical is totally different. No, they're all connected. It's just that when you get into the extraterrestrials, you get into more even than what the Bible talks about, but because it talks about those that hate us and those that love us and those that nurture us and created us. But so basically, when you look at the Bible, we are created beings, and God did say, "Let us create." I mean, if you go back and look at the word, it's "let us create." He didn't sit there and go, "I think the only person the only living thing in the entire universe, will create." It was us. So who's the us?
The creator wants his creation to create, and here we are.
Yeah.
But also, that there is a lot of talk that there was a collective, and they of extraterrestrials, interdimensional, whatever you want to call them, and they created us as God, and they took the best components of all different species, put it together, and one of the reasons why we're so watched and monitored is we're supposed to be technically more powerful, better than all of the species combined. But yet we have individuals like Dracos and reptilians and some of these, on that dark side of it, pushing us down because they know what the hell's going to happen if we wake up and we know what we are and we start using our consciousness and vibrating at a higher frequency. We're going to obliterate all the bad, and then we will ascend to where they said, every abduction is like, you guys have so much potential and you're fucking it up. And it's the truth. Welcome to America. Welcome to the U.S. The U.S. or Earth. We fuck things up.
I want to speak. I got to speak to that though. Given we've been, let's say, nerfed by the Anunnaki and enslaved as food and sex slaves and mine gold, and then on down for the last at least several 100,000 years, maybe let's say 260,000 year cycle at least. I kind of like humanity's like the beaten stepchild that is like running through obvious trauma and distortions and then not living her best life. And then anyone looking at us from the outside will like, those terrible humans, they just can't get it together. It's like, well, if you weren't trying to satanically indoctrinate everybody and poison their food and air and medicine and water and on, come back and then let's look at humanity. I challenge that. And then there's also where I want to call out Bashar. A lot of people know the channeler named Daryl Anka. I have nothing against him as a person. The Essassani Collective, he claims to channel, and I indeed believe, he's channeling, no doubt. Someone's coming through. but that's where they're one of these races where they have an ulterior motive. On the one hand, they want to help humanity, and they have shared a lot of amazing wisdom and knowledge through Daryl. But then, whenever it comes to humanity dealing with the real origins of the jabs, where dealing with the Illuminati types and negative like New World Order stuff, every time Bashar is asked about that, his collective there, they negate it and play it down and say, "Oh, you're just jumping at your own shadows that you're creating," and they totally deny the transhumanism thing. And so we're seeming to negate it somehow. And so and then on Bashar's website, he said he recommends everyone follows the recommendations of the authorities and experts at like the World Health Organization, blah, 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 and roll up your sleeves. And that's probably still on his website.
Yeah. Now, again, for the longest time, I got to be honest, I could pretend to channel myself. I don't know. I've never tried it, but I know people, and I thought it was like, wow, pretty good BS going there. Until one of my friends is a trans channel. He's named Riz. He's out of the West Coast. He came back home. It was great. Took him into an area, and we were doing ohms, him, his wife, and myself in this old stone chamber, and I do what I do. And I was started to have this visualization, and I was seeing things literally just before whoever he was channeling came out. The universe is spiral, and I was seeing the spiral before. I'm like, oh my God, there is something to this. So I'm a little bit more open, but I agree with Brian on there. We are puppets to a lot of people, and they get excited when you take the lighter out and you go, look, fire. Oh, like caveman. But you really got to be aware of what's going on and what's being said, because I would never trust the World Health Organization. I wouldn't trust the damn government on this planet. And trust your gut, your third eye, and your instinct. That's why God gave it to you. Whoever I believe there is a God, and I believe there are these other beings could be more archangel based, but not within this dimension. We're talking about multiple dimensions, so it's layers. So even though Archangel Michael is in this dimension, he may not be aware of, a draconian that is created that was once maybe an archangel and then became a demon, or vice versa. You can't just throw religion into it and then this and that. You got to be open to what comes. If I'm correct on that with you, Brian, I mean, that's what I'm feeling.
Brian, that goes along with the body is the temple and the Lord dwells within. And so we go within for answers and not without. And the Bible goes over that over and over and over again. How did you mess up? Well, you went outside for information. You didn't take and discern it going within where you meet me. And it's kind of like, I think that follows what you're saying, because you're talking about using your own discernment and going within and not relying on an external.
Take everything with a grain of salt until someone has earned their salt. It's a grain of salt.
Right.
And people, let me tell you something, in this day, it's getting worse, folks. You have to earn your salt. And if you are, Brian's dealing with Solar Bee right there, you're dealing with so many different levels. And I love the fact of the way he approaches it and presents it is basically what I'm saying as well. Like, here it is, but also, like, I have no problems with Daryl at all. People love it and enjoy it. Listen to what he's saying, but then you have this thing inside the cranium right here. It's called your brain, and if something doesn't ring true, it's not. Go research it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's true with everything. And you never look at a person and say they're a bastion of truth all the time. None of us are.
In this field, it's particularly fraught with danger there, and that need for discernment that Brian and Joan you're talking to there, because when you first jump into this field and you're learning that there are people channeling all these beings, and then a lot of the airy fairy stuff that some of these beings are claiming to say through humans, the message, it can sound really good, but then it can really take you down a dark negative path very quickly. And that is a really big deal with the disclosure movement, because people, there's the lighter fire factor Brian's talking about, that wow factor, like, oh my God, you're talking to aliens. But then, and even people in our community, we have Christy Campbell here. She's an experiencer, Montauk, and Secret Space Programs and others. Where we've had contactees getting telepathic messages for days and weeks at a time from the same beings, and the messages are great, they're on point. And then an imposter version of that being will come in for a couple of weeks, even mess us up. And then later on, when the original real beings come in, we're in contact and say, why didn't you say anything, blah, blah, blah. And in some cases we've been told we had to do that. We needed to step aside and let you have this experience to realize you can't just take for faith, gospel, any old messages that come into your head. And there's higher levels of discernment that we need to learn to be able to sort out who's talking to us at any given time, what their messages are, and to be able to question them. And they did it for our good. And I mean, I can name at least one instance where that happened. Yeah.
Your life and your experiences are EKGs. They're peaks and valleys. And what you want to try to do is understand where it's going to be really extreme on either the peak or the valley, and limit that. But you don't know. This is why we get reincarnated. You go through life and you have to make choices. And like Brian was saying, like we let you get, this thing come in and tell you that it was us to see how you would react, and see if you, did what we may have taught you in the beginning, question everything. Remember that? Question every damn thing.
When you were talking about channeling Brian Singh and an imposter coming in, I do believe that we experience that with human beings, where even through our government and through other resources, because we will have someone going down a certain trajectory, and then they come back and they're 180 degrees in the other direction, and then a few months later they're back where they were. So it's confusing.
Well, apparently, I mean, people could be getting swapped out. They could be getting hit with mind control and all sorts of interference. There are people who apparently, like with Bernie Sanders, people say, to get him out of the race, they sat him down and they gave him the talk, and then they showed him the tape, which is supposed to be horrible, nasty stuff that they can do to you and your family. And then he said, okay, Hillary can run. And so, people are coerced, co-opted, bought out, sold out, temporarily possessed, demonic attachments, swapped out, having psychic interference on them. I'm sure, where I wouldn't doubt that out there in the field, Joan, we've seen probably a little bit of all of that.
Yes.
I think there's a contingency of individuals that are called the incorruptibles. And no matter what you try to bribe them with, or no matter what you try to do, they are purveyors and researchers and seekers of the truth. And you can try to corrupt them.
Not going to happen.
They're incorruptible.
Have you noticed that as more and more of this happen and more powers come, mental health has been the main problem we have in this country, and the world, all these events, and they're like, oh, look at these guns. I'm like, it's not a gun problem. It's a freaking mental health problem. And if you create an environment where all these people that desperately need help aren't getting help, then what you've done is you've literally put a little monkey wrench into the system, so that people are now questioning, well, maybe I'm going insane because I'm hearing these voices or whatever, when they're actually truly being contacted. or they're having a true experience they're supposed to have. So
or they're
it's kind
being
of like,
targeted by the
yeah,
government, which Jesse Beltran talks about that, and they're literally being experimented on by DARPA, which adds to the component of chaos and confusion.
exactly, and it's purposeful. So that's why it's like, that's when you see somebody that has a Faraday cage in his room, or whatever. Or they always used to joke around about our tinfoil hats, but what they, people don't realize is when they got rid of unleaded fuel and they got rid of unleaded paint, they did that purposely because they couldn't see through it or hear through it. So it wasn't about you
And if
eating
you
paint
put
chips.
tinfoil in a microwave, it blows it up.
Yeah. So, maybe let's make lead paint great again and paint our houses.
I saw a post, Brian. It's there's another type of paint. It's not lead, but it has a high amount of metal in it. And someone was saying that, yeah, if you, I'll try to find it sometime if I can remember. But
Oh, that would be
yeah,
great.
there is an alternative paint that you can paint your house with to block
Yeah.
out the
Yeah.
monitoring.
I mean, isn't it interesting that we still have an incidence of direct energy weapon usage and anything blue still doesn't get tagged? Want to know why? Want to know
Absolutely.
why blue doesn't get tagged? Because what do they use and what are they going to use to take over the situation and fix it? The blue hats. And who are they? The UN.
And the blue laser. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
using
the blue-
blue lasers.
Yep.
It's an
It's
intrinsic frequency too, I believe. But,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, that frequency is also a very highly psychic blue color, and it's being perverted and used by the other side. It's powerful, but they're using it for evil.
I just think I'm just going to paint
That's what
myself
the other
blue and
side is
walk around
doing. They're
it.
just taking everything that is good and trying to obfuscate it and trying to kill it and attack it. But that's part of our mission, is to ensure that that doesn't happen. Disclosure is now, full disclosure now. Brian Singh, can you tell people where they can find you and a little bit more about your project?
Yeah, thank you. Right now things are so much in the air. I'm trying to keep mums in the word because all the attacks that I and others have been under for announcing our plan. So, for these days, I'm just saying, find me on Facebook. Add my nickname Solar Bee to the search bar there, and message me directly if you would like to participate meaningfully in the movement and move us forward to liberate humanity and achieve our Star Trek future. I don't check my email a lot, but it is my name, Brian_Sang at yahoo.com. And then I'm here every Thursday with you all.
Now, we are going on vacation starting Monday, December 22nd. We'll be on vacation. We'll be returning on July 5th. I'll be working on a documentary and some promotional materials and a new show for David, which is called Damn Straight, and some other things and scheduling, etc. So I'm going to be a little bit busy, but I encourage you to please entertain yourselves. We have one more day of The Awake Nation and Agent X11. We have 3 shows tomorrow. So I'm going to encourage you to join us there. Brian Bowden, where can people find you?
Usually in social media, prison or jail, because I'm tell the truth too much. Facebook, you can find me Wednesdays, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern at Brian Bowden, one word with a Y. Why? Because I like you. That's my YouTube. Subscribe to it. We do Third Eye Live. When Brian said he doesn't check his emails, I just noticed that I'm at about a 490,000. I have yet to check.
Ditto.
Yeah, I'm done with email. I'm done with all this stuff.
That's on my list of things to do.
My AI is shut off in the house, all this stuff. So they still listen, but it's not as much. And that's where you can find me. And I'm also on the Awake Nation on Thursdays. I was every other week, but Penny decided to change it for me.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. And I'm on Agent X11. With Penny and Joan and Brian Singh and whoever else comes to see it. And I may be doing another show with someone that has been on the show, Dave, coming up soon. So yeah, but have a blessed
Dave
new year.
The Hulk Ferrigno.
Yes. And do yourself a favor, stay in New Year's. Don't go out. Don't spend the money. It's stupid. It's a sucker's night. Because I think there's going to be some kind of, especially in the New York area, attacks. So just stay close by. That's it.
Well, you can find me celebrating. You can find me celebrating because it is the holidays. And if everything happens that Brian Bowden said is going to happen next year, I'm going to have a good holiday because it may be my last. And you can also find me on Agent X11. You can find me on the Trauma Triage team on Wednesdays. You can find me on the Awake Nation on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can also find me on X, JoanRenee27, and please do subscribe. I do post these shows on that channel.
And you can find me on the Awake Nation for at least one more day until we come back, and that will be in a new year, 2026, which, according to Brian Bowden, whoa, watch out, because there's a lot of crap coming down the pike. So keep your psychic ears on and keep your prayers on. My Savior is Jesus Christ, so I consult with him on all things that I do. My name is Penny Ellie Shepherd. I am Agent X11. And join us again tomorrow for the Awake Nation. We are on the David Zubik channel, so when we're away, feel free to just peruse there. We've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows for a couple of years that you can watch, and you can be apprised of the news tomorrow on Agent X11. We're going to be discussing the Reiner murders. We'll also be discussing the Noahide laws in the evening, and then we'll also be discussing targeted individuals, and an individual who has done 2 documentaries, and he made a post about the monarchy, and then he became attacked by psychotronic weaponry, and he has made 2 documentaries about that. So thank you again for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe. No one's getting paid, unfortunately. We'd like to remedy that, but no one's getting paid right now for what we're doing. So the way that you can pay us is please like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe to the Agent X11 channel and also the David Zublik channel. And I'll be seeing you tomorrow on Agent X11 and on the Awake Nation. The Awake Nation is live from 7 to 10. That's Eastern Time, 7 to 8. We do 1 hour of breaking news and some in-depth stories about what is happening right now today in the political arena. Thank you again for joining us. We are out of time, so we are out of here. Shepherd out.
Renee out.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's. Solar be out.
Bowden out.
Goodbye for today from Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist. We post new episodes daily. Check out our true crime episodes Wednesdays and Fridays. don't forget to watch our main show, David Zubik's Awake Nation, on the David Zubik channel on Rumble, live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah.